Well, hello. We are at the cusp of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, a 5-match test series between India and Australia. And we are, I guess, a few hours away from the first test match at Perth, where an Indian team, slightly weakened because it does not have Rohit Sharma, it does not have a couple of other players that they would have liked to be in the team, are going in, taking on the mighty Australians. The Indian team goes into the Border Gavaskar series right after a very humbling home defeat against New Zealand in India. But the Indian cricket team goes to Australia with the weight of history on their side, considering plenty of their previous Border Gavaskar clashes with the Australian team, which is why the series will be very, very significant. The series will be something that everybody in two continents essentially will be keeping a close eye on. If you are in India, that means waking up early in the morning, paying attention, which is also why we have a man on the ground. Sriram Veera is currently in Perth with the Indian cricket team, tracking them, going to the nets, attending press conferences, all of it. And because the Border Gavaskar Trophy is such a significant series for the Indian cricket team and cricket in general, we will also have a special series of our podcast on every single match when the India versus Australia matches happen. This is me, Amit Kamath. Joining me is our co-host Vinayak Mohanarangan, who's joining us from Noida. And we have Veerabhai, who's currently in Australia with the team, as I mentioned previously. Veerabhai, before I get in Vinayak, let's just get a word from Veerabhai in, because he's somebody who's in a slight bit of a hurry than the rest of us. Veerabhai, hope the weather is treating you well. And more than the weather, just wanted to understand, what is the mood on the ground in Australia? We've heard the first comments coming out of both the captains, and it's a rare occasion where the Indian captain and the Australian captain are both bowlers. But it seems, from all the acrimony that we are used to, heading into India-Australia series, thoda sa thaw feels like it. Can you just talk about that maybe? Can you just, in a sense, just set the mood for this series from whatever you've seen on the ground in Australia?
Perhaps it's best to start with a cute little moment at the unveiling of the Border Gavaskar Trophy to sort of just put everything in context. The trophy is set in the outfield, like TV guys, photo, print, everybody's lights are flashing. Enter Pat Cummins. Jasprit Bumrah joins in. They shake hands. They stop. They have to have a chat before they take the next 2 steps towards the trophy. And Jasprit asks Cummins, "Hey, how's your kid doing, man?" And Cummins answers that. And he asks the same question back to Jasprit, who launches into this lengthy explanation about his 1-year-old son, Ankit, full of excitement, just like 2 new fathers, right? He started to walk. Now it's such a big thing. And my wife, right? She's also working. And Cummins says, yeah, I know her. I've seen her. And so, these little joys that drew us. And then Cummins says, the first time the kids walk. And they literally go, both of them. And this is the build-up with the trophy and all the noise outside. And this is the chat that the 2 captains from both teams have. It was remarkable, not remarkable, it was lovely, cute, sweet, everything to say. So that's how this day, one day before the test match starts, then they go to the trophy and they put hands together and on the one hand on the trophy, and someone throws them a cricket ball, says, "Hey, since you guys are the bowlers, captain," and they juggle with one hand with the ball, and then cut to the press conference of both captains separately. Even that was again very sweet. Both talked up each other. Pat Cummins said how it's good to see Jasprit Bumrah, a bowler, leading the thing, and Bumrah in his side says, "Pat has done such marvelous stuff, great job with the captaincy, from winning the World Cup to everything, and I like to be my own man, I like to do a thing." So this is the setup of the 2 captains in the Mahal. And as you guys would have read, before the build-up from the Australian media, it's been they've run glorified features on the Indian cricketers from Kohli to Jaiswal in languages, in Punjabi, in Hindi, and even in Channel 7 is going to borrow in Star Sports Hindi feed and going to beam it. And they're going to beam it even in Australia, not just the overseas feed. They're going to beam it in Australia through the Australian cricket app, the Channel 7 app. So even the Indians and Pakistanis and the subcontinental people can, get a taste of it. So that's another thing which is sort of different this time from an usual series where it's all talk and stuff. talk against each team, but this is very, very different. So that's the kind of a feeling. So I spoke to a few of the public relations guys in Cricket Australia, and they are planning fan parks. Fan park is the thing that usually happens in worldwide venues, sort of World Cup and stuff, where you have a tent and you have some stuff, maybe a foot thrown, and sort of, a gimmicky stuff where there'll be an Indian photo, or if it's an Indian thing, and like that. But this time they're taking on a big scale. They have already reached out to the Indian and Pakistani communities, especially Indian. So there will be a big Bollywoodish, music, dance. They were all setting it up right now with specially catered Indian food really available in the ground. Usually it's not available. Usually you just get one curry and everything else is Australian, obviously. So they are reaching out the food. They're even saying, which I don't know how we have to wait and watch, that few Bollywood stars will land up, if not in Perth, in the subsequent cities. And there's just not an initiative from the local side. This is sort of an activity which is taken forward from the media promotion. The governments are involved. The Australian government is involved. And they told me that it all started when the Australian Prime Minister met Modi in Ahmedabad. You remember, many of you will remember 2023 Ahmedabad Test, India, Australia, just before the start of the test. The two prime ministers went down in a chariot, tour of the ground on the border around the boundary. And so the discussions have emanated from there subsequently, and they're carrying it out to carry forward the India-Australia relationship in this. And that's why this general big warmth towards India. Cricket Australia needs the Indian money, the television money. 2020 pandemic was a terrible year for them. They almost slipped to bankruptcy. They had to take out a $300 million loan from the Commonwealth Bank. 80% of the Cricket Australia staff were cut down, jobs were laid. And eventually the CEO, that Kevin Edwards, was shown the door. He had to go. And in fact, he was quoted at that time that if this happens in 2020 and 2021, the famous Indian series, of course, the Triumph, India will go there. So he was quoted before that, if India don't turn up here, we'll be losing, quote unquote, hundreds of millions. So it's that big, that huge, what Indian cricket, the television money brings to even as such a gloriously proud historical cricket nation like Australia. And now they're still in deficit, and this series, the kind of money they expect to be bankrolled for the next 3 years. So, this is how it.
Right. Veerabhai, just hang on for one more question before I bring in Vinayak. Vinayak, we very recently did a very longish podcast talking about the India-Australia series, the significance of it, what to expect. But right now, there are a certain more things that are clearer to us, like Rohit not playing, Bumrah being the captain, things like that. You spoke about the trepidation, the fear in the preview podcast. Are your nerves slightly calmed, still frayed? How are you feeling?
No, I mean, yeah, nothing to do with me being nervous or anything. No, but I think for the Indian team, the worry is still there that it is potentially going to be a long summer. Yeah, the start is going to be very crucial. Since we recorded our overall preview, the big picture one, we know that, Rohit is not going to play the first test. We know that Shubman Gill is injured. I think Shubman Gill, though, we knew when we recorded the last time. We know Ashwin is going to play, likely to play from what we understand, as Devendra Pandey reported. That came as a big surprise to me, considering he's not exactly been the first choice spinner overseas for a while now, be it England, South Africa or Australia. But I think as Lalit had, our stats specialist Lalit had written, it is a good move on paper, at least based on what we expect from the Perth pitch. So that actually makes for an interesting subplot already with the Steve. Of course, Ashwin is being played so that the left-handed batters in the Australian lineup can be tackled. But I'm looking forward to Ashwin versus Smith if that pans out. I think that's going to be one of the key matchups to watch out for. So yeah, that actually as if it was not intriguing enough already, I think that actually adds another layer of intrigue to the whole series. And Bumrah and Cummins being fast bowler captains, and me being a medium pacer, very gentle medium pacer in the past when I used to play, makes me quite excited to see how that kind of battle pans out.
Right. Veerabhai, I know that you have pieces to file, people to talk to, all of that in Australia. So before we let you go, just a quick question. I know that, you've been observing the nets. There was an optional net session that happened today. So what are your observations or your notes from the nets in essence? Who did you see really slogging it out? Who did you see just giving it a miss? Things like that. And what to expect from the rest of from tomorrow onwards?
Talking about the cricketing side of activities, it was an optional nets today. You had Rishabh Pant, R. Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja, and Abhimanyu Ishwaran landing up, and they just batted. Yash Dayal bowled, and other net bowlers, of course. So Rishabh Pant and Ashwin are probably expected among the four who turned up at the optional nets to play tomorrow. And there's a nice little moment. Rishabh facing the local spinners. And Rishabh Pant is just smacking them, and suddenly he realizes he's got a test match tomorrow, and he says, "Arey, good length mein bhi dalo yaar, thoda test kar lo," because they were bowling far too short and everything was too easy. And then once they pull in, you're still smacking them, but that's Rishabh Pant for you. So this is an Australians also practiced. Again, it was optional nest. Steve Smith, Marnus Labuschagne, Travis Head, the new opener Nathan. They all turned up, and Travis Head had a really long stint at the nets. Probably 3 stints. Usually he doesn't do it, apparently, the Australian journalist was saying. Even yesterday he had a long. He's, of course, the attacking batsman. And Smith calling out the usual stuff to the bowlers, even when he's batting. The pitches here, the net pitches here were very spicy. And there was this moment when adjacent net to his Marnus Labuschagne, and he cut the ball, which slipped through the net and hit Steve's calf, and he yelped in pain and shouted, "Get some good nets and good proper stuff here." And just 2 months back, Travis had rolled in to the nets, the adjacent net, and said, "Hey, what's up? I heard something happened to you. Your calf or something?" And Smith nodded like almost morosely. And Manas said, "Yeah, I almost just lazily grazed him. And you know him." And so stuff like that. And they all practiced pretty hard. Ball was moving. The center pitch, there was much talk about how spicy and all that, but apparently the curator was saying that there's been rain around. It didn't rain today, although it drizzled a bit in the morning, but there was rain in the previous 2 days. So he wasn't sure about the pace and the movement, how much the bounce, how much the water moisture content is affected. So they're also going to wait and watch tomorrow as the rest of the world. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Indian team is a bit vulnerable, as we all know. Bumrah put up a good word at the PC about how he's expecting to be his own man, how he wants to be his own man as a captain, and not copy Rohit or something. So then I asked him, is one thing if you announce a full-fledged captain just for a one game, जब रोहित आएगा तो would you tell भाई रहने दो मैं 2 और टेस्ट कर लेता हूँ? He laughed and said, no, मैं रोहित भाई को तो ऐसे बात नहीं कर सकता हूँ. But one thing is sure, I'm going to enjoy this test captaincy. I've done it once, I really enjoyed it. I like the challenges. We bowlers are not much smarter than the batsmen. We read the pitch better. That's our job. So I know what the field placings to do. And whether you're going to overbowl yourself as a captain or underbowl, he says, no, and I think this will actually work in my favor, where I exactly know when I should get into the match. They also talked about how they're ready, how the Indian batsmen are ready, how they've forgotten the New Zealand tour. The first thing they said, first day of the tour when they landed up here, apparently he told that, Jo hua ho gaya, we have to move on, learn and then move on. So all the talk is done, so we'll get to know tomorrow. So let's hope for a good competitive start to a 5 test match series. Otherwise, it's going to be a long summer ahead. Let's see.
All right. So that was Sriram Veera, our man on the ground in Australia, who's going to be traveling with the Indian team to all 5 venues. He's going to bring us all the latest coverage. You can head over to the indianexpress.com and check out all his latest dispatches from Australia. Vinayak, test match one day before, what is the sense that you are getting in a way about the team?
It's always exciting, right? The start of any test series is actually quite exciting, especially so if it's India playing in Australia. It's always been my favorite test series or test tours among everything. So that sense, that excitement is there. I think the toss is important. I mean, I hope India win the toss, get to bat first and, put up a good showing. Like Veera mentioned, yeah, I think day one is going to be huge. It's not like the series is going to be decided on one day, but a good start is very, very important for India. They can't afford to, let's say, put up a bad showing on the opening day and then play catch up for the rest of the tour. Also, with the point that, largely the struggles against New Zealand in the last whitewashed series was the first innings, the start of the match. It didn't really go well and India kept playing catch up, which didn't work out. So, yeah, if they can avoid that, start well, either with a bat or ball, we should be in for a good series. So let's see how that goes. What about you, Amit? You can close it out with your comments.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting series, especially given whatever has happened in the series against New Zealand at home. The Indian cricket team will be definitely licking its wounds, smarting from that home whitewash. against the Kiwis. A very exciting 50 days, I think, coming up for the Indian cricket team. Please do follow all our coverage on the indianexpress.com, also in the newspaper. And we'll be bringing you, as I mentioned, this podcast on every single match day where we see cricket action. That's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining. This is me, Amit Kamath, saying goodbye on behalf of Vinayak and Veera from Australia. Please do listen to us tomorrow as well when we have another special episode. Thank you.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.